Warm greetings. Welcome to another session of Friday Waters Thesis Club. Today's Friday Waters Thesis Club session is on transformations of canal and groundwater irrigation governance in rural China. The session is co-hosted by the International Association of the Study of the Commons as one of the ways in which we can take Ostrom's work all over the world. The Friday Water series is an extension of the flagship program Wednesdays for Water of the W4W Foundation. The idea of Friday Waters is to wet the Fridays with the fun-filled and yet fruitful activities for the future generation. In Friday Waters, we have Water Talkies, Book Reading Club, a Thesis Club, which is today, Water Arts, and Meet a Maestro, some of them taking place once a month depending on the speaker's availability. The focus of Thesis Club is on bringing students and scholars who have done or are doing research on some aspects of the water matters, and we bring them to the session to understand and discuss with them the identified issue, their aim and objectives, the methodology chosen, the research design, fieldwork, findings, learning, and many more. In other words, we just want to understand how the new research is shaping and where are the young people interested and in the water sector. In the process of to know the making of the research, we also are aim to contribute to make the science and society more interesting, not only among the youth, but also connect the youth to the senior generations. This session is also meant to increase the outreach of the research and the researcher. My name is Mansee Bal Bhargava from the House of W4W, and I'm the moderator for today's Thesis Club session. In today's session, we welcome Kaixia Man, who is conducting her research on transformation of canal and groundwater irrigation governance in rural China, and I'm sure she has a different title for her PhD. But welcome, Kaixia. I'm really happy that you agreed to take this invitation. And also, we are also very pleased that we will at least travel outside India to know a little bit more about the China, because we are in many ways sisters, I must say, and we are related and brothers for that matter in many cultural aspects. Before I invite you to make your presentation, a quick overview of your biography as a protocol of the session. Kaixia Man is currently a PhD researcher in the School of Global Development at the University of East Anglia in the United Kingdom. She is also enrolled in a joint PhD program with the Center for Social Sciences at the Southern University of Science and Technology in China. She received her bachelor's in public administration at the Sun Yat-sen University and master's in public policy at Renmin University in China. Kaixia is in the research group member of Development Studies Association, Tyndall Center for Climate Change Research and Water Security Research Center at the University of East Anglia. She's also one of the early career network members of the International Association for the Study of the Commons. Her research focus on agrarian change, water governance, and China's state policy relations, state-society relations pertaining to commons. Her research project aims to interrogate state-led technocratic agricultural modernization and reshaping of the water governance in the rural China, unraveling the institutional and power dynamics exercised through the access, use, and management of water during the agricultural modernization process. I have had the opportunity to hear Kaixia, and that is why I invited her. And I'm really excited to have you here and listen to you in a little bit more elaborate way, because last time it was too short a presentation as a panelist. You will have 25 minutes to 30 minutes to make your point, and that will follow up with some questions. There will be some questions here as well as in YouTube. So I'll take them up and throw it to you. Over to you, Kaixia, and thank you so much for agreeing to take this session.
Thank you. Let me share my screen first.
And I will also request you to keep your video on when you're presenting for the recording sake.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
It's still coming. Yes, arrived. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mansee, for the kind introduction, and hello to everyone who joins online. My name is Taixia Man. I'm a PhD researcher at the University of East Anglia and Southern University of Science and Technology. Yeah. Today, I'm going to first introduce my PhD project, my fieldwork and case study area in Shandong province, and then I will focus on one of the main contents of my thesis, talking about the decollectivization or the uncommoning of canal irrigation and the diversity and adaptation of groundwater irrigation in rural China. Finally, I will end up with the discussion and conclusion. My PhD project is going to examine the interrelationship between state-led agricultural modernization and water governance. Since the early of 2000, the Chinese government has launched the agricultural modernization campaign, consolidating the farmland and rebuilding irrigation infrastructures to facilitate the agricultural production and revitalize rural communities. So I'm interested to find out how has the agricultural modernization agenda transformed water governance, and how has the transformed water governance reshaped the agricultural modernization agenda and process? In contrast to the technological and managerial point of view, which aims to utilize water by technology to produce more crop per job, I adopt a political ecology perspective to reconceptualize water in a relational way. The so-called hydrosocial relations regards water not only as a biophysical resources, the chemical components as a H2O itself, but the water is deeply embedded within the rural society, well connected to people, place, social institutions, and power structures. And therefore, the governance is a political, contested, and complicated process within context-specific place. Under this way of understanding, my research focused on 3 dimensions of water governance transformations: the technological, the organizational, and the institutional transformations. And these transformations are connected to each other, as the technological changes to access water facilitated by the agricultural modernization project will definitely transform or change the organizations and institutions to manage and allocate water. So I'm going to unpack the power dynamics among different stakeholders, different actors in their everyday practices to do with water. And I conduct 9 months of field work in an agricultural county in Shandong province in northern China between 2003 and 2004. This county covers over 1,000 square kilometers and is one of the main grain-producing counties, growing a season of winter wheat and a season of summer rice or corn on its over 50,000 hectares of farmland. It has, you can see in this map, it has 3 major seasonal rivers running across the whole county. Since the monsoon seasons usually arrives in July and August, the rice planting started in the early June has the highest demand of water, yet it's very dry with little rainfall. So it causes problems for the canal irrigation. Its groundwater resources vary by locations, with less in the North Mountain area and more in the South Plain area. However, with differentiate, the technological meditation, groundwater irrigation also varies in different places. I will zoom in on one of the township, the Gray Township, as a case study to show the transformations of canal and groundwater irrigation. The Gray Township, you can see in the map, located in the southern part of the county, is almost at the downstream of the river and the canal. It has a flat terrain and grows a season of wheat and a season of rice. It's also a migrant and aging township, with more people moving out of the township than people move in over the past few years. And there is over 20% of people who age 60 or above. The current situation is that the young generations move out to the nearby cities or capital cities for non-agricultural jobs, while their elderly parents will stay at home to look after their children and farm small plots of land for staple food, and may also lease some plots of farmland to other large producers to get annual land rent. This township relies heavily on the government's farmland and water conservancy projects to improve its irrigation infrastructures, such as lining canals, dredging ditches, and drilling wells. To manage these infrastructure projects, a township-level water user association and its 3 village-level branches were established in 2012. However, this top-down project-driven imposition didn't work in the Chinese hollowing out rural society. Well, let's first have a look at the canal irrigation. The farmland and water conservancy projects bring differentiate metering and diversion structures at different levels of the canal system. It only installs water meters in the intake gate at the canal head. There is no water meterings at the other levels of the canal system. You can also see from these pictures, in the main canal, almost all the regulation gates located along the main canal have been renovated with an information-based control system, and thus it can be remotely and automatically controlled by the township government. The distribution gates located along the branch canals are concrete structures equipped with steel gates and require manual operation by the village committee. At the lateral and field levels, the outlet structures are often earth offtake dug by the growers themselves to access irrigation water. These infrastructure features make a difference in regulating the volume and timing of water distribution in the interaction between individuals, villagers, and the administrative sections of the Water Resources Bureau that manage different parts of the canal system. Here's the organizational structure of water management. The county's Water Resources Bureau will make a water allocation plan every year and specifies the amount of agricultural water to its irrigation district and townships in these documents. Then the township government only sub-allocate the agricultural water to each village, not to the individual households. And in practice, water allocation is not regulated by the volume at all because, there is no water metering at each level of the canal system. It is regulated by the duration of irrigation days. For example, after the manager in the irrigation district opens the intake gate to divert water into the main canal, he would then supervise township water stations to release water through the opening of regulation gates along the main canals And in order to allow the water to flow from upstream to downstream in a timely manner, the upstream townships are scheduled to irrigate for the first 3 days, then the middle ones for another 3 or 4 days, and finally the downstream township for the another 3 days. So you can see it's not totally managed by or regulated by the volume, but by the timing, the days of for irrigation. And at the village level, it is the village committee leader who is in charge to manually open and close the distribution gates along the branch canal. And the water user associations is usually dominated by these village leaders without elections or member meetings. And the water fees for irrigation used to be collected according to the land area. And now it has been totally waived to reduce the farmer's burden, and is subsidized by the government budget. Since water is totally free and no collective action, there are often water conflicts between upstream and downstream townships and villages, or villagers located between the east and west riverbanks. The coordination of water conflicts is left to the township governments or village committees themselves without the formal mechanisms or upper level, for example, the county level authority. The often delayed water distribution and water conflicts are persistent challenges in canal irrigation. So people turn to groundwater for irrigation, particularly during the peak of water demand for rice cultivation in early summer. The governmental infrastructure projects have totally invested to build 514 agricultural wells in the Great Township over the past 10 years. And these wells are unevenly distributed in different places and have changed the social institutions and organizations to manage water. I select 3 villages along the same canal within the Great Township to show the operation of groundwater irrigation. I name it the Y village in the upper stream, the M village in the middle, and the X village located in the downstream. Due to the differences of geographical location, water constraints, and infrastructure conditions, it develops 3 distinct types of groundwater management modalities in these villages. Well, in the Y village, although it is located in the upper stream, the canal irrigation covers only 60% of its farmland. So it relies on 22 electromechanical wells constructed by the government projects. This, you can see in this picture, these electromechanical wells are advanced tube wells equipped with the electric bolts, water pumps, underground pipelines, and water outlets. People can easily tap their water IC cards to abstract groundwater for irrigation. These wells were managed by Water User Association before. However, since it's dominated by the village committee leader without public participation, it didn't perform well, and villagers complained about the delayed maintenance. According to the words from the township water station director, he told me that the village committees use the collected water fees for private interests instead of timely maintenance. So villagers often call the government hotline to complain about these broken wells. And also there is a stricter monitor of the implementation of these infrastructure projects from the upper government. So the ownerships of these wells were finally transformed from the water user associations to the township government. And the water user association was bureaucratized and integrated in the township water station in 2023. The township government re-centralized the control of irrigation commons, assigned 2 staff members to collect water fees, charging the water IC cars by electricity. And the groundwater for agriculture use is free as well. And hired 5 technicians for operation and maintenance. This is the situation in the Y village. So it forms a bureaucratic model controlled by the township government to organize groundwater irrigation. And in the X village, at the downstream level, it received no project wells from the government. It has frequently experienced delayed and inadequate canal water. And people in this village, in the X village, will notice the convenience of the electromechanical wells used in the other villages, especially for the elderly and the women irrigators. Just have their water IC cars and water was pumped out directly for irrigation. And according to the conversation with a female smallholder, she told me that water flow in the canal was quite limited in our village. We used to rely on shallow duct well for irrigation, carrying heavy and oil-consuming diesel engines to pump water. Now I'm too old to carry these machines. And this electromechanical wells is very prompt and handy. So they form investment partnerships by themselves with 7 or 8 people in a group and build 13 privately owned electromechanical wells in 2022. This form of self-governing institution emerges from folk practices without establishing a formal organization entity like the Water User Association. They informally delegate 2 local plumbers for water fee collection and maintenance. So you can see in the X village, they formed a self-governing model or modality to informally manage groundwater irrigation. And finally, in the M village, in the middle of the canal, it received no governmental project wells and suffered from poor timing canal irrigation schedules as well. In contrast to the other 2 villages, M villagers relied on a range of individualized and self-dependent solutions to deal with water challenges and sustain their agricultural livelihoods. For example, they use oil and labor-consuming diesel engines to pump canal water or groundwater from shallow duct wells. These wells built by the village collective or some small private tube wells. Some smallholders, as you can see in this picture, some smallholders also fill up water tanks with water from home or public taps and carry them with their tricycles to the field to irrigate some small blocks of farmland. So here's the I call it self-dependent and groundwater irrigation management. And here's the summary of these 3 groundwater management modalities in terms of infrastructure ownership, operation and maintenance arrangement, and emerging dynamics. I hope I have made it clear so far.
Yes, please continue. Will you please stay on the summary sheet and give us a little bit of comparison? Sorry. Yeah.
Finally, a brief discussion and conclusion from my presentation. And this study aims to unpack the context-specific power dynamics of water governance in the interplay between state interventions, community participation or non-participation, and adaptation of local villagers in rural China. It demonstrates a hybrid form of water governance arrangements in the Chinese context, with a combination of modern and traditional, formal and informal, governmental and folk practices. And we can see that there are coexisting trends of decollectivization, re-centralization, self-governing, and also individualization in the canal and groundwater irrigation. This study also questions the prescriptive and decontextualized institutional design and best practice of participatory governance model, and examines the institutional change of the top-down state reinforced water user associations in China. In particularly, I want to highlight the institutional diversity of adaptive social institutions and organizations emerge from localized and farmer practices. These practices are grounded in people's worldviews, beliefs, and knowledge to do with water and farming in context-specific dynamics. They do not necessarily operate as the formal institutions like to forming water user associations. And this is not work in hovering out of rural society as a external driven and project driven dynamics. Well, I think I will stop here, and thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to answer any of your comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaikshia, for this sweet, short, and smart presentation. I would still request you to hold your presentation on the screen and take it to slide number 3, from where I have some queries, because in Friday Waters Thesis Club, we really like our participant to present the research design, or we can say the method adopted. So you did mention, you can put it in the slideshow, yes. You did mention that you did 9 months of field work. So I would like to understand, you may go to the back.
Okay, this slide.
I would like to understand your research design, or what methods did you take to get some data on from the field. And you do mention political ecology perspective. And would you like to highlight also the framework that you are using? Is it from the Commons or Ostrom framework of institutional analysis development framework, or you are having your own conceptual development framework? So just to highlight on this slide, and then we can move on to the cases itself.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions. In terms of the research design and methodologies, my project adopt a qualitative case study as a method. So I collect my data through the field work. So I conduct first I conduct a scoping study as a first stage of field work to select the areas, specific counties and townships as my field size. So in the second and also the third stage of my field work, I start to collect my data using some data collection methods such as semi-structured interviews. I conduct a total 51 semi-structured interviews, as well as casual talks with different informants. And I also use participatory observations and non-participatory observations during the field. I pay visits to to the to the farms, to the greenhouses, to to conduct, to have to for emerge myself with with the farming practices, and I was shown around by by the growers around their farms to see their crops, and to see, they show me how they manage to get water and use different methods to irrigate their farmland. And I also conduct focus group discussions, and I totally organize 6 focus group discussions, one with the county level of government officials, from the water bureaucrats, and from officials from the agricultural bureaus, and another 5 focus groups discussion I conducted with the township, at the township level, with the township government officials, as well as they invite some large growers and some agribusiness companies and farmers farms, and some farmer professional cooperatives to join to attend these meetings. So this for the focus group discussion. And I also these methods I use to collect first-hand data, and I also use some secondary data source. For example, some government documents, policy documents, they are working reports, and also the yearly statistical reports, etc. And also I refer to some archives documents in the library.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so you just try
of
to
course, every
use,
PhD's
yeah,
research
try
has
to
to go
use
through that.
try to use every methods to collect data, to meet people in the field.
Just still a method. You may now close your presentation, please. Thank you. Yeah. We can just have the conversation now. And just to understand from you further within the method, please close your presentation. Sorry.
Yeah.
You
you
selected Shandong, and from there, the if I'm pronouncing correctly, the Gui or Jui Township.
Yeah, Gui Township. Yeah,
Gui Township. I'm still keen to understand what was the criteria for selecting this township. Was it strategic based? Because you do mention about some dynamics of upstream and downstream. And how did you come to the discussion, or the sorry, not discussion, but the decision to select the township? And within the township also, you have very interestingly strategically selected the X, Y, and M towns pockets. Was there any strategic decision or criteria for the selection? Because the upstream and downstream issue is quite evident from your project. And also, may I request you to have your screen in such a way, because your half of the face is really going down. So maybe you can have the screen. Yes, wonderful.
Okay, please. Yeah, now it looks perfect.
Yes, that's I
Thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, I seldom have a recording for the meetings. Yeah, it looks perfect now. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for this question. Yeah, and for my whole PhD project, I use a county level. So the whole thesis is about the county level case study. And I have several chapters in my thesis. So in these specific chapters, the transformation of canal and irrigation system, I located, because the whole county level is too big for me to illustrate, to highlight some modalities. So I just zoom in in one of the specific township
Huh.
within this county, because this township they have used both canal and groundwater for irrigation, especially it's located at the downstream. So it relied on groundwater heavily.
Huh.
So that's
Huh.
why, the canal system is already, out of use, and a lot of conflicts and disorganized and commoning. So I just happened to to realize that, oh, they have different models or modalities for groundwater irrigation. And for my whole PhD project, I select 5 townships
Okay.
within the county, and these 5 townships across the north to the south, so that I can, to have a comprehensive picture or understanding of the what's going on within the whole county. So different townships, they have different, I would say a little bit different observations or dynamics, but most of them, they are quite similar. They grow the same crops because this county is a grain producing counties. So they mostly grow food crops, and they have 3 rivers across
Yeah,
the whole
my
county.
question was because of the presence
Yeah,
of river actually, because then the issue of the upstream and
yeah.
the downstream comes into picture.
Yeah. So for my whole project, so I select township from the north to the south.
Hmm.
So there are 5 townships actually located
Hmm.
within this
Hmm.
county. So I just want to, to highlight this Gray Township to show specifically what's changing, what's happening in this situation. And the Gray Township is also why it's typical, because it have the most rural households for this
Hmm.
township. So the aging people and the people moving out, so it's quite obvious, or have the highest proposition of
Hmm.
people moving out, and the aging population. So that's why it's surveillance situation in Gray Township.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very interesting. I like to ask some question on. We'll go to the details of each of these townships because I see the scale is quite big. It's not as I would
yeah,
imagine
it's
a
not
big issue
big.
to be, including the population as well as the land area. But before we get into the details of the cases, just a quick overview, which I'm missing from your presentation, is on. Uh, the China's national policy on groundwater use. I mean, just some key points from there.
Okay, for groundwater use, right?
Yes.
Um, For groundwater use, there is some policies. uh, Overall, there is a strict regulation on
Mm.
groundwater use,
Okay.
especially for industrial use and
Mm.
domestic drinking water. So when you applied for the groundwater, you need to submit groundwater
Okay.
abstraction permission to get to access this groundwater for industrial and domestic drinking water. However, for agricultural use, they
Mm.
don't need to apply for this for this license, or
Mm.
or some permissions for
Mm.
for agriculture use. So no matter the government project, they drill wells, normally 40 meters depth,
Mm-hmm.
these electromechanical wells. So these
Mm.
government projects, they don't need to apply for
Mm-hmm.
permission. And for
Mm.
some private wells, due by the individuals. They also don't need to apply for this permission. So you can see a lot of wells on the farm. And
I was coming
during
to
my
that
field
because
work.
farm,
Yeah,
wells and canals.
yes, and this the situation, but in the last years or the years before, there was a monitor or there was an investigation conducted by the Water Resources Bureau to have to investigate how many wells actually we have on this farm. So they just to keep a record of this well. So totally there's over, I think, over 6,000 agricultural wells with a diameter over 20 centimeters. So only some bigger wells are recorded, but some small, very small wells, less than 20 centimeters in a diagram or diameter, they didn't record it. And just everything is regulated in the documents, but in reality, they don't they don't ask to, you can't use this groundwater for irrigation.
Yeah, so there are a few questions now within the case studies here. And before I actually ask the water question on the ground, I'm just curious about the demographic pattern of these three townships that you have selected, especially how much aware the people are in terms of the population. Vis-a-vis, of course, you did mention that there is a village water community, water user association, and all.
Yeah.
How much aware of the rights and their duties each farmer is? I'm asking these questions keeping in mind what's happening in India to just understand and co-learn from the two largest democracies. What is the awareness level about water, use of water among the villagers in these three townships? Or you can answer from all your case studies that you have selected.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing I got it very clear that your selection was strategic in the sense that these villages, youth are actually migrating and majority are left are senior citizens, which also brings additional challenge in agriculture. Yeah, so just over to you. I mean, in terms of their awareness and knowledge about this shared resource and about the rules and regulations that they should follow, and where is the room for leverage,
Mm.
And other than 90 centimeter dia well, which does not require approval. I'm sure they know that is why you see the emergence of these small wells.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, in terms of the organization of water user associations, and it is as a it's set up as a mandate from from the county or the upper level of government as a request to implement these infrastructure projects. So it's at the very first beginning is not grassroots organized the associations. It was it also exists in name only. So when it's the water user associations is set up at the township level and not in a specific village. So they, in the township level, so the township government send people or delegate some people, usually the village committee leaders, to be members of these associations, just to make it exist, exist in name only. But in practice, I don't think they organize or they are not any election and no members meetings to, we need to hold a group meetings for to discuss some issues, to allocate the water, etc. There is no, and there is also no formal rules. There is no a charter or a specific rules written in paper or on paper in
It's
document.
like a self-organized, as you have written, and as you were presenting in one of the village, more
Yes.
self-organized.
Self-organized, but they don't form any organizations. There's also no written rules. I asked for the leaders, do you set up any rules to keep it, sustainable? They said no, because they also, form these informal partnerships quite new. When I was in the field, it was just 1 year before they set up these informal partnerships. So it's quite, everything is, we just step the river, cross the river by like stepping the stones. Everything is like, no formal rules and no, I would say, I also wondering the differences between institutions and practices. I will say they are also they are only practices, not as a stable or robust institution. Yeah, it would be a challenge for them as as the infrastructures going old, and to a lot of issues as time going by. They need to they need to have more fundings to maintain these infrastructures. Yeah.
Something very interesting. Sorry, something very interesting. I mean, I heard you, and I would like to just get it corrected if I did hear it rightly or understood it rightly. That when these village committees are formed, I mean, they are self-organized. Let's say, if I understand, but then there must be some level of discussion on two things importantly, and I just wish to understand this across China also. If you have an overview, is there any consensus building or communication happening? I mean, on the selection of crop, basically who is going to farm what, because that is also water dependent. And I did learn that you are talking about the major paddy area in these villages, but I'm sure there is also cyclic farming. So paddy is one season and there will be more. So one thing, one aspect is who is is there any collective decision or discussion, for that matter? Decision will be after discussion on the growing of selection of crop, or is there the state incentivizing on the selection of cropping, because that will also tell us the nature of water consumption or groundwater extraction, or is it just based on the land holdings of the farmers? I mean, at what level there are discussions, or there is no discussion at all? It is just incentivized. For example, in India, I can tell you that based on some of the incentives provided to, for example, for some particular kind of rice, for sugarcane, for cotton, farmers move to or shift to or to that kind of farming. Incentive in terms of fertilizers, incentive in terms of water provision. So how is it in your case study area?
Yep. And thank you for the question. Yeah, it's interesting. And for my studies, this self-organized investment partnerships for people who invested in drilling wells, most of them grow food crops. So a season of winter wheat and a season of summer rice or corn. And yeah, most of because these are very old elderly people, so they just they just want some stable food and for some water
That's sustenance
demanding.
farming then.
Yeah, water demanding and some cash crops. They also
Okay.
need labor, to
Mm,
lead more labor to take care of the cash
mm,
crops. So
mm,
most of them, or maybe in this specific rural township, most of them grow stable food, and for some, some younger age
mm,
or middle age, they are
mm,
specializing in farming or
mm,
agricultural production. They will
mm.
invest their own private
In.
wealth.
Mm,
They have, they have labor and they have more capital to
mm,
invest
mm,
in their own irrigation infrastructure. So for this
mm,
group, they will grow some cash crops and build some
mm,
greenhouses for for cash crops and for some another crops patterns. And in terms for the government policies
mhm,
for the crops, the government subsidize uh, food food crops growing. So that's
mm,
why most of the peasant households they grow
mm,
food crops. So because they can get some government subsidies, and I would say they don't have a specific um, uh, to grow a specific crop except for the soil bin. Soil
okay.
bin, yeah, and the government policy has a specific policy on to grow a specific amount of soil bin within this township or within um, this county.
Mm.
So for
So
cash crop, there
yeah.
is no, I don't
Mm.
think there is any specific demanding.
Mm-hmm. Because you mentioned about the irrigation system to be 50% canal fed, which I am assuming
Mm.
as state supported scheme, and
Mm.
then 50% is people's dependency on the groundwater extraction
Yeah,
through wells,
yeah, yeah,
dug wells and all. Just to understand from you about the alarming climate change situation, depleting groundwater,
yeah.
and you did mention and a slide which actually I would like to discuss more on when you are comparing the three sites and based on especially based on the management strategy and infrastructure,
Mm.
because we saw that in some places the infrastructure challenges are emerging, but then more than that the political ecology side of it that is the emerging dynamic from the government's calculation to the
Yeah.
people's desires for mechanized irrigation to even
Mm.
parochial interest and especially agricultural related livelihoods.
Yeah.
And when the youth are moving, just to understand from you to when because we have to also start summing up the session as of now. These interesting conversations always fly,
Yeah.
and time is now already tight now. Uh,
Yeah.
how is the state looking at the leverage aspect of people? I mean, where is the room that how much to control in terms of what to grow, how much water? Because I can see a good balance if I see from distance as 50% state water provision and 50% people have to manage on their own. But I'm
Mm.
sure as a larger system in the country, there must be discussion on the limit to centralization and also the limit to decentralization. And you do mention about uncommoning, and I'm seeing it as part of
Yeah.
the centralization of water. What do
Mm.
you think are some of the emerging challenges or dynamics or even opportunities for that matter, those who can capitalize the situation right now? In both on all your case studies, or if you have a comparison of the emerging situation, you may highlight them.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, so yeah, I know in my presentation there are a lot of ch coexisting trends. So yeah,
Yes.
I also noticed that some decollateralization and also re-centralization, individualization, they
Mm,
coexist at the same time. From the state interventions.
mm-hmm,
They try to, because the situation is that there's hollowing out the rural society,
mm,
but the state have a shoulder a strong responsibility for for agricultural production to ensure food security. So
mm,
the state, they try to take a, a stronger role in the project investments to improve the irrigation infrastructures.
mm-hmm,
And yeah, and also they try to not only build as much infrastructure as they could be, they also want to manage them well to make them functioning or for a sustainable management. So they try to um, we they try to take a step forward to manage the and to bureaucratize the water user associations. They try to to ask for the government, the township government, to shoulder the responsibility to
mm,
organize and to at least at least in name only to organize and to operate and maintain these infrastructures. This um what the state try to try to re-centralize this irrigation commons because
mm-hmm,
the village at the village level
mm.
there are not many collective action
Yeah,
for
my last
yeah.
question was going to be that only because I heard from you. And as
Yeah.
scholars or common scholars, both of us, we must discuss collective action as our work.
Yeah, especially in rural
Yes,
context.
yes.
Yeah, so that's how but it's yeah, I know this is hard and because the it depends on the state's
Mm,
funding and the state personnel, the government personnel to
mm,
to keep the irrigation functioning and
mm,
working. And this one part of your question, the other part of your question, how the limits of this um self-organizing, all right?
mm.
Any opportunities for collective
Yes.
action and any
And
and
even sustainable farming, if that is the
yeah.
goal of collective action, because one of the thing which comes out very clear is that collective action does not necessarily mean the good governance, because the agenda of
Mm.
collective action has to be very clear. But over to you. Yeah.
Yes, and I would say the other parts,
Mm,
when the state, the society, they how they
mm,
interact. The other part I would say, I want to argue is that the society at the society parts,
mm,
they didn't follow what they didn't follow any any policy models or some good
mm,
governance models imported outside
mm,
from the
mm.
outside and only exist in the document. They
Yes.
try to, they try to, because they try to build it or form these institutions or
Mm,
organizations from their practices for
mm,
their needs. When I need water and I don't have these facilities, so
mm,
that they come together and
mm,
join in a group to invest a small amount of money to build
mm,
these infrastructures. And when this, I would say they have the discussion for
mm,
it to say now we groups we yeah I know each other so we form partnerships in
mm,
groups So to have these infrastructures, and they also have the discussion on when these wells are broken, then they need to come together again to invest money together to rebuild or to maintain these broken wells so that everyone in these groups can access water. So they have this they have these designs and their needs to at least to come together to discuss to make it happen. And for these specific, facilities, that they not only have the wells, they also have the electricity boards. They have some water outlets, water outlets. So when the water outlets are installed within your farmland, yeah, and when it's broken by this specific household, they need to, for this individual one, if you damage it, you need to be responsible to, to maintain it, to, to use money to maintain it so that everyone can, can have irrigation water. So yeah, so it's
You are
challenging
in
for me as well. Yeah, I know it's
I can
challenging for me as well. So how to what extent it will be sustainable, or to form a collective action at a grassroots level to to make things happen and to keep going their or sustain their livelihoods. So I can see there is some opportunities to just no formal rules, but the practices, the farmers' practices and their knowledge really exist, and they have their own wisdom to manage to have water. So for most of the villagers, they depend on a range of individualized self-depending ways or solutions for irrigation.
So very interesting, because you with the 3 case studies, village sample, you did talk about the governmental approach, the self-governing approach, self-depending approach.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's very interesting, because self-governing and self-dependent, and I'm sure there are trade-offs or the challenges and opportunities in each of these cases. And 1 hour is never going to be enough to discuss this. But I hope, as a PhD scholar, this conversation for you was quite satisfying to really unpack a lot of things that is going on in your mind, because you are hearing some naive question from someone naive sitting far from China with no clue about China, but also trying to find out some patterns that happens in this part of the world, because IASC Asia is also looking at commons across Asia. In India, as the farming land or farming area is reducing, interestingly, what we see emerging is actually the farm production is increasing, and that is where the role of technology, role of infrastructure plays a huge role. I am assuming it's the same situation in China, or is the China the farmland area are increasing and farming production increasing? Are you having the similar trend as in India? Because we have a very peculiar trend right now at a national in the national level. So we have farm land decreasing, but farming increasing. The farm produce increasing, and I'm curious how it is in China now, because we are having serious land transformation now from agriculture to other developmental projects. So how is it in China? And I would like to close the session with this question. I mean, I'm so curious to know more, but I know we have to stop somewhere, and we can always keep continuing discussing, as we both are IASC scholars, so we always have time to talk to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you really had a lot of expertise in this,
Yes.
in this field.
I'm a good
And
student learning, all
yeah.
the time.
And yeah, and I also agree with you that there are some commonalities or
Yes.
something in commons in different countries. And
Mm,
this situation you mentioned, the farmland, the land use transformation, it
yes.
it did. In some, I would say in the southern part of China, it would be
Mm,
more obvious.
mm,
The farmland transfer to non-agricultural land to,
yes.
for the urban development.
Yes.
There's a situation. But in the I would say in some agricultural counties or
Mm-hmm.
in some specific areas,
Mm,
um, they have the government or the central government have a policy to secure
mm-hmm.
specific amounts of farmland. So they make or to make some counties or some agricultural areas to
Mm,
preserve a specific amount of farmland to make it as a basic farmland. We call it basic farmland. So this farmland cannot be converted to other uh, types of land use.
land you.
So
Okay.
so that to make it, to secure agricultural production
Yeah.
and secure to make food security, the
Yeah.
national food
Yeah.
security.
One thing
Yeah.
is food security, but also looking at China and India, both we are also huge food exporters
Yes.
or
Population.
grain
Yeah.
exporters of products. So and I'm sure there are a lot of practices that can draw some similarities and co-learning can happen. And that's the whole idea of actually initiating the IASC Asia series with some of scholars like you. We also have an IASC Asia session coming next month, but for now, thank you so much, Kayaxiaman, for this wonderful presentation and also
Yeah.
engaging in a meaningful discussion. I learned a little bit more about China because many of the times I'm limiting myself to visiting China and talking to my fellow scholars in the urban areas. And
Oh.
that I rarely get an
I would
opportunity.
like to congratulate you for this
Hi,
wonderful
Afrin, go ahead.
compilation. Hi, hi, hi.
Hi. Yeah.
S-
Go ahead. Do you
I
have a question for her or what? Huh.
Yes, actually, I would like to congratulate you for the amazing compilation of the work, which you were able to pull it off in just an hour very
Yes.
successfully with a very
Yes.
apt presentation. So I was
Mhm.
just picking up and learning up from the slides which he has compiled. But I was also, see, the question which I want to ask is what kind of drawbacks were you majorly facing? One, when you are going ahead and proposing these ideologies of policy intervention frameworks, which you have three case studies in Y, M, and X villages. So what was the major drawbacks you were seeing? One. Second, the other part is like how many years are we already into this PhD?
Very, very common question for other
Yes.
PhD scholars because Afrin is our next PhD scholar on this platform, by the way. So
Just
Okay.
curious. Yes.
that's a
Thank
question that
you.
I often say for PhD scholars, the worst question they have to face, which stage are you in your PhD?
This looks really good. Actually, this looks really good.
I will start from your second question, and I was in my final year of PhD project. So it's a
Excellent.
4 year, it's a 4 year project. So currently I'm in my final year, and I have submitted my thesis, and I'm waiting for my viva. So
Oh.
the
Hmm.
presentation today is just one of the chapters, I would say, one of
Hmm.
the main chapters of my thesis. The
Hmm.
whole thesis is a lot. So
And
I
it
just pick
cannot be
up,
presented in 1 hour.
yeah, yeah, an hour is not
But
enough
having
as
said
well.
that, it is also a good way that you practice for your defense here. I mean, which many of the previous
Yes. True.
PhD
True.
scholars have used this platform to actually rehearse their defense
Yes,
presentation.
True.
So
True.
you had the
Yes.
choice to actually present your whole thesis Because as far as I know, in Netherlands, I had only 15 minutes to defend my thesis of 5 years.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I also did a 3-minute thesis presentation in
okay.
another conference. 3 minutes, what I'm going to talk about. It's a huge challenge for me. Yeah,
Yes.
but this one for 25 minutes is enough for me to go
Yes.
deep
We did
within
realize.
a topic, also specific area.
Yeah.
And for your first question, you mean that any drawbacks or any shortcomings of, to highlight these
Challenges, any
Yeah.
challenges which were
challenges
particularly, yeah.
to highlight these models, right?
Yes.
To do a comparative analysis.
Like, yeah, people like the opposing spaces. Like, was it a policy which was intervention which was tough, or was it the local people less informed? Where were the challenges mostly coming from? I'm curious on those lines.
Okay, the challenges from this, why there were these 3 different modalities. I classified it according to the to their first geographical locations, and they did decide what infrastructures they have, and
Excellent. Okay.
and also the water, the resources constraints they are encountered in irrigation commons. So I don't think they have
Okay.
when we do a comparative or classify these models, at least they have something in common. And then just 1 or 2 the factors they decide the outcomes, So in my case, there is the different infrastructures conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, different infrastructure conditions, and they were the main factors. And
Excellent. Yeah.
the second one is, the water constraints. Yeah, because
Yes, because of the geography. Yeah, and the access to the water resource. Yes.
the geographical one. And for the social or political part, I think there's something in common. That's why, but there were also I didn't go deep enough to see the social divergence or some social dynamics they
Okay.
really determine these patterns. But I will argue that the state interventions and the infrastructures comes first, and then it's determine or it change the institutions, social institutions and organizations, grassroots
Yes.
organizations. So that's my logic. So I need to defend myself.
Yes, of course.
Just from my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, we usually encourage the speaker to have their slide on the research design conceptual framework out there.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's like as we discussed that it's actually one of the rare times where I also got feedback from previous speakers for Friday Water Thesis Club that it is rare in the 4 and 5 years of PhD that they get such a huge space in terms of time to really express themselves fully. Otherwise, it's always 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, or even 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So at Friday Water Thesis Club, we have really thoughtfully designed the session so that people can pour out their heart and everything about it, and also lot of things which are which got knots in your mind about the project. They also get I will say loosen up, or also when you are talking to someone very strange, having no idea about your research, you also get
Yes.
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, and for today's presentation, I try to make it, to lay person who is
Yes,
not.
that is the whole idea also. And
So I
I
use it.
consider myself lay person, and I
No.
will be very honest on that. So thank you so much for being so patiently taking our questions, and importantly, tough questions which I was posing on you, and you answered them very beautifully. That's also one of the ways we try to mentor our Friday Waters speakers. It's a give and take. We learn, and we also try to tell you a bit about how the society is going to reflect upon on your work. So it's a kind of a practice ground. You can use it. And so you did wonderfully, response. And I'm sure you are going to continue your endeavors and also uh, keep yourself in the commons arena, because we both belong to the commons group, and it's a beautiful space to be, to talk about the commons across the world, and of course focusing on your region. Next week, by the way, Friday, we have a very interesting session, and we are actually going to Friday Water Arts session on August 29th at 5 p.m. IST to discuss a drop of line with Banaras Hindu University professor Suresh K. Nair. More information will be there on our website. Next Monday, which is August 25, when we discuss Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water, when we acknowledge and appreciate the contribution of women in the water sector. We have Dr. Anindita Sarkar from Bonn, and she's going to talk about her life journey in the water sector for a long, long time. She's been our speaker at Friday Waters book reading on her project and book publication, which happened, and she's coming up with another book, but we are going to discuss her life. In next week, Wednesdays for water session on August 27th at 5 p.m. IST, we are going to the Himalayas to discuss the development and the following disasters which we have seen in the last few weeks pertaining to cloudburst, heavy rains, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much. Do keep checking our website and social media on what conversations we are doing on site as well as online. Here we are online, but we are equally active on site to keep the water conversation flowing, because at W4W, we believe that water conversation is the only way to move towards water conservation. Thank you so much, all of you.